Hey guys, so another week, another video. This week we're doing something a little different. We're on a tripod now, so there's that. Now this past week I haven't gotten most done, mostly because I've been busy around the house working on some things, placing a door, stuff like that. Took up a little bit of time. But things are starting to move along, making some progress on my game. So, now before I go any farther, I also wanted to mention I do respond to comments, so if you have any questions or just want to mention something, just go ahead and leave a comment down below. I will see it. And I'll probably reply. But today, I was wanting to talk about something a little bit different. I wanted to cover a question that I haven't received directly, but I always see people asking, and I even asked for myself when I was younger. And that is, what does it take to make a game? So, alright, let's start by breaking it down into multiple categories. Alright, so you've got the creative aspect. That will include the design work that goes into a game, coming up with how the game feels to play, what features the game has, what the game looks like and sounds like. Anything creative fits into that category. Then you've got the technical field. This is how you actually make it happen. This is the programming, the actual creation of the artwork, and the technique that goes into all this music, sound, anything. Then you've got the side that a lot of people don't like to think about, but you have to think about if your games are going to be a self-sustaining thing, and that's the financial aspect. Alright, if your games are going to be able to actually sustain you to keep making games, you have to actually earn a living off them. Alright, let's talk more about the creative aspect. So, when you're first starting to make a game, obviously you start with an idea. Every game starts with some form of an idea, whether it's a gameplay mechanic or even an art style or a story that you want to convey. Whatever that first spark of an idea is, the first thing that you need to develop from that is a very clear vision for what the game needs to be. Not necessarily trying to think about every single detail in the game, but what are the general concepts? What is it that you're trying to convey to your players? Because obviously if you're making a game, you're making it for your players. And I've noticed this is where a lot of games fail, and why a lot of people give up on some games, is because they're missing something. They're missing a clear focus on what they're trying to achieve. If you don't have a clear vision for your game, it can be overreaching, and then once it's growing out of control, it's hard to actually rein it back and make something enjoyable. And the principle to keep in mind here is that players much prefer a game that's small, concise, and high quality than something that's overreaching and poorly executed. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Even if you're making a game that could be considered large, keep its focus small. Keep it centered around a core principle or a core set of principles. Okay, so from your first idea for the game, you create a clear vision for the game. Now what do you do next? Well, you start to break it down. Basically, what is the game actually like to play? What features does the game need to have? So once you have this clear vision of the game, it becomes much easier to figure these things out. Is it story-based? Does it have a progression of levels? Is it open world? If it's either of those, what challenges will face the player? Things like that. So I can cover in more detail these aspects in future videos if you guys would like. Just leave a comment down below if you'd like to see. Alright, now that we've covered the creative aspect for the most part, what does the technical side take? Well, this is all about skills. So you've got programming. Obviously that's a very important thing. Any game requires programming, but not necessarily by you. There are tools that allow you to make games without really any programming, but that's only going to get you so far. And one thing to keep in mind is programming isn't really this big scary thing. It's just creating a list of rules. It's just telling the computer how your game works. So if the player's doing this one thing, then you do this other thing. That's essentially programming. Then we've got the graphics or art, whatever you're going to call it. I consider this to be a technical thing because it actually requires the skill to make it real, to actually execute your plans. And we've got anything to do with audio, from sound effects to music, whether or not you're making that or finding it from sources that you're allowed to use. Because there are plenty of creators like you that are wanting to get started, so collaboration, working with other people, can really help boost you all up. So you'll really help each other get to the points where you're wanting to get to. Now, of course, on the technical side of things, there are other details in each of these categories that are things to keep in mind, but I don't want to go into too much detail right here. It'd be just too long, too much to cover in one video. So then we've got the financial side of things. This is something that a lot of game developers don't really like to talk about when they're first getting started. They think it'll just take care of itself. Well, you can't think of it that way if you're going to actually be successful in this field. Now, if you're making small games that you aren't expecting to make anything from, that's fine. That's a good way to learn. But at some point, if you want to keep making games, you're probably going to have to start to think about this. So, I don't want to cover too much detail about this right now, but this is something that you should be thinking about when you're coming up with a plan for making a game. It has to actually make sense for you to make this game. It can't just be you throwing time away into a project that won't really help you out very much. There's a time and a place for that, but if this is going to be a sustainable thing, it has to actually be sustainable. Alright, now that I've covered kind of the generalities of those aspects of making a game, I also want to list a couple of core principles that you have to keep in mind. You're making a game. That means you're making an experience for a player. If you're trying to make a game for people to enjoy, you should be enjoying making the game. Because the work that you're putting into a game will be directly visible by a player when they play the game. So make sure that you're actually putting the right energy into the game. I know there will be frustrating points. There always are. Making games is a challenging thing, and you have to face it for yourself. You have to find a way that will work for you to get through that challenge. But you have to keep in mind that if you really have the desire to make games, it's all up to you. You can make a game if you choose to put in the work that's required. So I hope you learned something in this video. I hope I covered it in a decent way. If you have any questions, be sure to leave a comment down below. I do read comments, as I said at the beginning of the video. So if you enjoyed this video, maybe leave a thumbs up, and definitely subscribe. So yeah, I'll see you around. Goodbye.